drive. Oh, you're good. It smells good.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Hey guys, we are here with Mark Kaiser. Okay, we'll start over. Sorry. Hey guys, we are here today with Mark Kaiser in his 1968 Barracuda. He's going to give us a little bit of a rundown on what's going on with this car. Sorry, see why we do this? See? Okay. I know. No, correct me.
Okay.
That's and see, I'm doing the easy part.
Yeah. Take three.
Okay, I know. Ready? Hey guys, we are here today with Mark Kaiser in his 1969 Plymouth Barracuda. It is gorgeous, and Mark is going to give us a rundown. We're going to go do a little test drive, maybe some little tire smoke. We'll see. But he's going to give you the tour right now. So, have at it, Mark. Thank you.
I'm the proud owner of this 1969 Plymouth Barracuda. As of last Thursday, I just celebrated my 11th anniversary of owning this car. When I bought this car, it looked nothing like this, obviously. This car spent most of its life in the region of Death Valley in Southern California, or not too far from Death Valley. The original story with the car is it belonged to an elderly female, the man that I bought it from. He and his son bought the car. They decided they were going to make a project out of it. And so when I initially bought it, it had a brand new Crate 365 Magnum motor in it. 430 gears. It had like Holobrand knockoff wheels, and it was really looked, kind of post-stock era. But it was essentially, it was wrapped in its original faded paint and maybe had some Earl Scheib. It was a combination of silver and gold.
Well, okay, so silver and gold was the original color on it?
It was originally silver, but it had faded, it changed colors. But the car was pleasantly clean, and the car is super solid, spending its life in Southern California.
Right, rust-free.
Rust-free. So I drug this thing home. It ran. At the same time, even despite the fact that the motor ran so well, one of my good friends had the motor disassembled in his garage. And he told me, he said, hey man, buy an A body and we'll assemble this motor and stick it in. I said, what is it? And he said, it's a 410 cubic inch stroke 360 LA motor.
What kit's in it, do you know?
I do. So he had the motor and all the machine work was complete. 60 over, it's an LA 360 block. He essentially had every single thing for the motor, which consisted of Eagle crank and rods.
Right.
And I believe they were diamond pistons, from what my memory serves. Anyways, the only thing that was lacking was a cam, lifters, and an oil pan. He had everything else. So we did some research, and we ended up going with a Comp, a Big Mother Thumper, hydraulic roller cam. Right. And so it's got Mopar Magnum heads, which is really cool. I guess it's one of the benefits of owning a Chevy is parts are cheap, and the roller rockers that this requires are Chevy roller rockers. Right. So I was pleasantly, surprised and pleased about that fact.
1:6 ratio.
Yes, yeah. Yes. So it's it's got Edelbrock. It's got the high-rise dual platinum intake manifold, MSD ignition. It's approximately 11-to-1 compression, and right around 2018, I decided to convert it to E85 fuel, which certainly had its benefits, but it had a number of drawbacks.
Really?
And so during the transition, I upgraded the cooling system at the same time, and I couldn't get enough heat in the motor. E85 is very cold-blooded, so there were some trial and errors, trying to correct that matter.
Did you convert the carburetor, or was it an E85 car?
No, so I had this carburetor built by Performance Carburetor in Ontario, California. And it is essentially, it's their proprietary billet body. It's a 4150 Holley. It's got Holley XP bowls on it. And it's hot rodded. Everything that they could do to it to configure it for E85 has been done. So it twists an electric water pump. We configured. My buddy actually built if you notice the alternators low and on the driver's side. It's kind of a cool feature that my buddy Chris did. But so when you put a car together, it goes through so many changes. And so even though it had really cool TTI headers, a buddy of mine in Hesperia, California, Rob, at RJ Fabrication, he built the entire exhaust system, at one of the stages. So it's got a TCI torque flight, 10-inch turbo action converter. Rob is a strange dealer, so he ordered a strange Dana 60. It's got big 4 tubes on it, so we can run the Wheelwood disc brakes for the rear. So it runs on Wheelwood disc on all 4 corners. It's got aluminum drive shaft. The frame's been tied. It's got Mopar Performance frame connectors that they welded in. So it's got Caltrac bars, split monoleaf, Caltrac shocks all the way around. So it gets down the road.
It does move pretty good.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah, it runs pretty good. How wide are the tires? What size tire do you have on the back of it?
It's a Mickey Thompson ET Street. It's a 275 60 15.
Okay.
And so it's
a nice size. It's tucked well.
DOT approved.
Right. It has a couple little spots on it that make it look like it has tread. Yeah. Oh, they fit perfect. They're amazing. They fit in there.
Thank you.
Have you had it on a track ever? Or?
I haven't. By the time I got it to this stage, I never intended for the car to turn out like this. I didn't. When I bought it, I was just gonna put some primer on it and just Joe Dirt the thing around it.
Yeah.
Not worry about scratches and such. But how it is, it's like remodeling a house.
Right. Yeah.
You pull one thing apart, and the next thing you know, the kitchen comes with it.
Right. Yeah. We started investing in it.
So, from the time that I was able to drive my first car was a 70 Challenger, I've always wanted a Hemi motor. Always. My whole entire life. So when I decided, I got this idea that I was going to transition my car to a Hemi car. I made a few phone calls and got some prices on various builders, and I ended up calling my friend Bob Mazzolini. So I asked Bob, I said, "Hey Bob, I want to transition my car to Hemi. Would you build me a motor?" And I was rambling on. Well, as soon as Bob could get a word in edgewise, he's like, "Hey, I've got one here at the shop that Kenny just assembled. It just came off the dyno." And so I said, "What? Tell me about it." So Bob kind of broke it down to me, and I told him, I said, "Man, let me send me some photos. Send me all the horsepower, on the motor, and I'll get back to you." So anyways, Kenny at Bob Mazzolini Racing built this motor. It's a brand new Cali's block. So the motor ended up 511 cubic inches. It was assembled, it was dynoed at West Tech in Riverside, California, and it actually made more horsepower during the first run. It made 700.5 horsepower and just around 600 and so foot-pounds of torque. Once Bob told me what it was, I told him, I said, man, I've got to have cross ram. It's got to be a cross ram. And so I was able to track down the cross ram and the matching carburetors, the era-specific carburetors, through Mancini Racing. And so, so phone call away, I had this stuff shipped to Bob. Kenny assembled the intake. One of the things that I didn't realize that I was lacking was obviously during the initial build it had a stage 5 inline dual 4 setup with matching Edelbrock carburetors. And so there were a lot of things that I was lacking that Bob had in stock. So as far as, you know, all of the cool, the much needed cross ram hardware, you know, Bob had. So he upfitted it. They drug it back to West Tech Dyno in Riverside. Thank you, Kenny, for taking it back there. But anyways, so they put it on the dyno again. Steve at West Tech did his magic, and this thing ended up making 676 horsepower?
You have the dyno sheet.
I do, yeah.
We'll post that out there.
I'll have to refer to it to refresh
Yeah,
my memory.
send it to me and we'll post that with it.
Anyways, but it lost 30 pounds or 30 horsepower with the cross ram, but it picked up 50 foot-pounds of torque.
Wow.
And so, so fast forward, I buy the motor. Bob ships it to me in this box here, and I ended up painting the motor myself because Bob wouldn't do it for me, which I don't blame him. It was a very arduous task. But just about 3 weeks ago, Bob reached out to me and said, "Hey, your motor made Hot Rod Magazine."
I know, right?
And I was like, "What?"
How cool is that?
And so I'm kind of like the Missouri. And I'm like, "Show me," you know.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as I got a chance, I went to Barnes & Noble and I was thumbing through the various magazines, and I couldn't remember if he said Motor Trend or what, and I couldn't find the article. So I walked out of Barnes & Noble and I did a Google search and I found it, and it was actually, the first one was Motor Trend.
Really?
Yeah, so it was featured in Motor Trend magazine online, and there's an actual video of the one that Bob sent me with the Crossram dyno at West Tech. And so so I was super giddy, you know, giddy like a schoolgirl over seeing that. Well then, you know, being like a proud father, so to speak, I had to share it with everybody I knew that I knew would care to, you know, to hear the story. So Ray at Hollywood Corners tells me, I'm telling him the story, in fact I sent him the link, he finds the original printed Hot Rod article and sends it to me. So in fact he was gonna, he was gonna bring it tonight. Having said all that, you know, this motor contains every part under the sun that's probably the best ever, you know, manufactured. Stage 5 heads, a solid roller cam. I believe it's CP pistons. And again, I'll have to send you all the specs. So much of the stuff I've forgotten, you know, the last few months.
Yeah, we'll list it on the video, the specs on the motor.
But I need to get off my lazy hind end and get this thing stuffed in there. So.
Yeah, it'll be quite an endeavor to get that into that little Barracuda. So.
But I've got a shoehorn.
It can do. It can work. It can be done. It's been done in the past.
It has been done.
Yeah, awesome.
Oh, I got it satin. You got real one.
Yeah.
That's one of the sharpest hood designs ever made. I
would
mean,
agree
you know exactly what that hood is to when you see it.
It's grinning through here, especially this time of day.
Yeah, it is beautiful out
I
there.
think we could have picked a nicer day, brother.
I agree. Yeah. Oh, this is a pizza. Alright, just be yourself. I'm trying to find you. There you are. You got kind of a lot of backlighting.